Welcome back to the Drop Bass Not Bombs podcast. My name is Amy Farina, aka MC Unicorn. I'm also the lead journalist over here at EDM House Network. I'm here today with a very special guest, Ferry Corsten. How's
Hey,
it going?
good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being with us today. So, for those of you who don't know, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you do?
Sure. My name is Ferry Corsten. I'm from Rotterdam in the Netherlands. DJ producer. Been doing this for, well, the good part of 25 years or so. Don't want to say it out too loud, but yeah. Uh, Mostly known for trance, I guess, but I guess a lot of people who know me also know me for like the diversity, I guess. Trance, house, techno, you name it. Yeah.
Nice. So you've been in the scene for a long time, as you've said. What is your earliest electronic music memory? Do you have a moment that really brought you into electronic music, made you fall in love with it?
Yeah, I think that was when I was going out myself back in the day, clubbing. One of my very early moments when I went out, and there was a track that I heard in a club, Cubic by 808 State, and that's a band from the UK. It's sort of like electronic music band, and that track was just so crazy. Um, when I heard those sounds, it sounded like nothing I'd ever heard before. Nothing that you could hear on daytime radio or anything like that, or normal music in the clubs, right? And I was like, wow, this is super cool. It's so weird and alien, and I want to know more about it. So yeah, and I never stopped researching.
That's amazing. So from that moment on, did you just decide, okay, I'm going to be a producer, I'll get into the studio, start making beats, or there was a little bit that's happening in between there?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I grew up listening to a radio show here in the Netherlands called the Soul Show. This was like mid 80s, and I was like a kid, like 9-year-old kid, you know, um, listening to this music, and it was very different from anything that was top 40. It was just the latest import stuff from the States or from France or from the UK, and it featured like disco type of stuff, Italo dance or Italo disco, basically. Very, they were very up like up front with sort of like the early hip hop of the days, electronic hip hop and like funk kind of stuff like African Bambata and people like that. And that for me was so like wow, different. And one of the items in the show was this 15-minute window where listeners could send in their most creative sort of mixes. And I'm not talking about a DJ mix. This is like reel to reel tape cutting, pasting, edited mixes. Um, and when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is cool. I want that too. So that's how I can remember really so well how I got my first turntables. As a 10, 11-year-old kid and a tape recorder for my dad. I remember that. And I saved up to get a mixer and started practicing. And that's how that started. Um, then a few years, fast forward a few years, clubbing, met this other guy who had the same hobby and interest, and we started doing these mixtapes together, which ended up with two other friends of mine who had a little studio. The first sort of like sampler and first sort of like Cubase and all of that really early stuff, very small. And we decided to just go at it and just have fun in the studio and figure things out. And after a few trials, we had a track and we got it signed at one of the labels that where I always bought the music, bought my records, one of the record labels there, and rest is history, basically. So that developed into like me fully producing music, and then being at some point successful with a bunch of tracks in the UK, and that kicked off a real DJ career. Yeah.
Nice. And at what point would you say that you transitioned into trance music? I know back in the day, genres kind of were different than now. I remember too, I'm 33, and I just remember in the US, it was just all techno, it was all house music. It's only very recently that it's like, oh, we have melodic dubstep and bass house. But is there a pinpoint moment that you would say, okay, now I'm a trance producer?
It's very tiring, all these sub genres. You know, it's just like good music is good music, and I don't know why people need to put a label on it, you know, to be able to understand it. You know, exactly to what you said. Everything was just house or techno, and or like drum and bass or jungle at the time, right? I
Mhm.
mean, there was a difference, but not all that micro sort of labeling, you know. Um, when did I become a trans guy? I mean, okay, I don't know. That was a very organic sort of way how I turned out to be a trans person. I've tried everything. I've tried ambient drum and bass, acid house, techno, you know, house music, commercial house, whatever. And every time when I showed up with my demos, with the at the A&R managers at the various labels, they all had the same comment, and it's always like, especially when I started making my attempt to make uh, hardstyle or gabber at the
Mm,
time.
love
You
it.
know, yeah. My go-to person, my A&R guys said like, yeah, it's definitely hardstyle, it's definitely gabber, but it's too melodic. You know, and I made a techno track and it's too melodic, and I made a diss track and it's too melodic, and yeah, so they released the stuff, but they were always like, yeah, it's not quite house, it's not quite techno, it's not quite hardstyle, it's too melodic. And so from very early on, I guess I had a very soft and sweet spot for the soft spot for the melodic side of things, you know. And then uh, yeah, I guess when I released Out of the Blue by System F, that's when I realized that's when I found out that people labeled me as trans. So I never knew that that existed before. So it
You're
just
like, oh,
happened.
I guess I'm a trance DJ now.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So that's it. I mean, I just made melodic music, and now the whole word melodic is super hot and cool. And but you know, it's something that I've always done, and that's where my trans history seems to come from. Yeah.
Speaking of trance history, I mean, the sound has changed a lot over the years. The scene has changed a lot over the years. I was just out of state of trance a couple of weeks ago. I was
Right.
like kind of behind you.
Okay.
But I've noticed that music has gotten in general shorter and shorter, electronic music in general. So back in the day we had 7 minute long trance anthems. Now it's like 2 or 3 minutes. Back in the day you would have a radio edit, of course, but I remember like I think I saw you at Club Fur in DC, or at
Right.
Echo Stage back in the day when I lived in the US, and songs were much longer back then. Why do you think it's getting shorter and shorter? And do you think this is a trend that's going to change and eventually go back to longer anthems, or are we going to have like 30-minute songs now? Or
Um,
30-second songs?
Next song. I think if the formula becomes 30 seconds, that's the end of melodic stuff, you know,
There's no
because
buildup.
you can, I mean, you know, with melody you want to build towards something, right? Exactly. I think, you know, it's part of the Spotify culture we're living in right now. The ADHD short extension span that people have nowadays. You know, I feel with Spotify, it's you're not listening to music on Spotify. You're listening to algorithms and analysis and numbers. Yeah, that's what people don't realize. But Spotify ultimately is like a wind tunnel for cars. You know, every car on the road nowadays seems to have the same shape, and that goes for music as well because algorithms and analysis say your track should be like that, because that engages the listeners the fastest and the longest. And so I feel that in that sense, when you look at music, um, yeah, everything gets shorter and shorter just to get to the meat of the track straight away and keep your listener there. And you know, um, yeah, it's some of these tracks are even shorter than the traditional radio edits. Um, and yeah, it's not the best development if you ask me. You know, it takes away the art of building a track and telling a story through music. Um, but look, there's the short version of that, and luckily there's also a lot of people that still release like the longer original version. Um, and I also understand that a track with like a minute and a half beats intro for a lot of people is not really interesting. That's a DJ tool. So I get that on sites like Beatport and things like that, where you get those. Uh, but I definitely would love to see like a middle road, if you know what I mean. So
Like
straight,
4 minutes, three
yeah,
and a half.
not straight to the vocal, straight to the meat, but a bit of an intro, which is already music and not just straight up beats. I get that's very boring to listen to, but um, I don't think that we go back to go all the way back to 7-minute versions, unless you get those on Beatport maybe. Uh, but I also definitely don't see it go um, shorter than 2 minutes, because depending on the genre, I would definitely have to say that uh, I think for a proper trance track, if we speak in that genre right now, I don't think you get very far in 2 minutes. You tell your melody line once, and that's it. Track's over, and I don't think that's what we all want.
No, for trance, you really need the buildup. I think, especially for me, it's that slow build to the drop. It's get
Yeah.
hands in the air moment. I think that's defining for trance. I think in other genres, it's not as important. I come mostly from the hard dance scene. And I
Mm.
know now with up tempo, which is really popular in the Netherlands, it's just the straight kick. And
Yeah, fit in.
with
Yeah,
that, it's 2 minutes,
that was
you're in,
better.
you're out. It's just the kick and
Yeah,
you're done. There's
yeah,
not so much of telling a story. There's not so much of that hands in there, everybody, and then here comes the drop. And it's like, yay! It's just a
yeah.
different vibe.
Exactly, and I mean, it worked for some commercial house tracks, I would say. Even works for certain techno tracks, but at the same time, you also want to have that sort of longer getting into the track type of thing with techno, right? That's what that music is also for. So I mean, yeah, it works for certain genres, not for everything really.
Definitely. So speaking of genres and speaking about a state of trance, I noticed that this year there were more genres represented than when I went in 2020, for example, when it was in Utrecht.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts about that? And what are your thoughts of the people who push back? Those pure trance people who are like, oh, melodic techno, or oh, high-lows on the lineup, or he's not really, he or she or they are not really trance. What are your, how would you respond to that? Or what are your thoughts about that?
Um, you know, if I look back at 20 years of doing this, like a trance, really, when I started DJing, let's say really mostly in the UK and also the early days in the US, people were way more open-minded then. You know, it there has I don't know, it has grown in such a way that these trance purists, they only want to hear this, and everything outside that sort of window is, ugh, it's scary, it's not nice, not cool, this is not trance. Trance has always been very, very diverse, and you know, really, if I look back 20 years ago, we had so many different styles of music that I would now classify almost as house, but we consider that trance as well, or at least I would play that in my set. Tiesto would play that, Armin would play that in his set. It was sort of like part of the staple trance sound that we play. But it could be a house track, could be also tracks that are almost borderline techno. When I listen to old sets of mine from 2004, for example, um, when I hear those purists talk about, oh yeah, back in the day everything was just so much more beautiful and this and that, I'm like, wow, you're so wrong, man. Because if I listen to that set from 2004, 2001, it's almost like it it leans more towards rave than trance. Every once in a while there was a track that had a big sort of trancey synth, and that's why those tracks were so massive, because compared to the rest, those were the ones that really stood out and made a moment in the night. And and now if you listen to pure trance, the 140 BPM stuff, track after track after track after track, I'm like, I'm done after 3 tracks, right? Because it's all the same. So I would say that, look, it's cool to hear a track like that, one or two, but mix it up, because then the element of surprise when a track like that comes back in again is just so much bigger than hearing, 10 in a row, and it becomes numbing, really. Yeah. So back to a State of Trance. I love it that the lineup is more diverse than just that, because um, it also celebrates the influence that trance as a genre has on other genres, right? I mean, we're now we're since everyone's so afraid to use the word trance, they started using melodic,
Mm.
because but in the end, ultimately, if you listen to melodic techno, that for me is just slower, really slowed down trance with a bit more depth in it, but it's the same thing. And where techno is really heavily borrowing from like the big trance classics from 20 years ago, you know, I think you should also really admit that those tracks are just ultimately trance tracks. So in those genres, I would like to say that trance is almost like the tastemaker, salt and pepper, right? It brings the melodic element to those genres, and I think we should be proud of it, as a trance fan, that those genres are so melodic now that they are actually being represented at a State of Trance.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I mean, I had a great time at a State of Trance this year, and I loved your set as well. And I did like all the diversity, and I like that it was 2 days, and I got to experience everything, really immerse myself. It was a lot of fun, and your sets are always really well known for blending together different genres. And you've mentioned a bunch of times that you love drum and bass. I also love drum and bass. Would you ever consider doing a drum and bass alias or a new project with drum and bass?
I don't know. It's a sound that I really love listening to when I'm either working out or snowboarding or driving or so, because it has so much energy. Um, and I love it when, sort of like the liquid type of stuff as well. Um, would I do a separate alias? I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I've never really considered that, honestly.
Ooh, did I just give you a good idea?
Maybe there's a light bulb right now here. I don't know. It is a very specific thing, though. I gotta be honest. It would take me a while to train myself to really drop a legit sounding drum and bass track, because it's a skill. That sound is yeah. And I hear some producers, not drum and bass producers doing it sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, I hear you, or I hear like the big drum and bass masters. There's a difference. Yeah.
Well, you can develop your own sound, like we were talking about with trance. It can be
Absolutely.
melodic, trance, drum and well, there's already melodic drum and bass. There's already vocal drum and bass, uplifting drum. And we're getting
Yeah,
back
yeah,
into
yeah, yeah.
all this, so
It's all
many
there. Yeah.
subgenres. You can create your own. I mean, you do have so many projects and aliases already. How do you balance all of them, from Fair to System F to Gouryella? How do you balance all of it while staying true to your unique sound?
I think those are really fine lines that I decide there and then in the studio, I guess, right? I mean, if I do a trance track, um, I will feel there in the studio right when I'm working on it, like, oh, this melody, that's that's definitely that's definitely a Gouryella, because Gouryella is not just for me. I try to classify it. It's not your typical. Oh, I have a new trance track on big melody, and oh yeah, it's Gouryella. That's why there's only ever so few coming out, once a year, maybe once or 2 years. And that's for the one reason that it needs to have this. I don't know. I can't really say put my finger on it. It needs to have this ting, if you know what I mean. It needs to have this certain. If you listen to all the Gouryella tracks, they all have this certain melancholy in it, I guess. That not every other trance track has that same sort of uh, emotion, I guess. Really, that's the word. So, so Gouryella has its own sort of it's in its own lane for me. System F. I mean, I haven't really done a System F track other than my own version of Adagio for strings recently. But I classify System F a bit more as like party trance. It's a bit more, you know. And then Ferry Corsten is anything really, could be a house track, could be a techno track, could be a trance track. Uh, but yeah, and a fair, that's outside of everything else. That's just for me. Fair is a passion project. It's you know, I'm really exploring the world of ambient and cinematic stuff there, um, and I just love doing that because as much as we try to deny that the unwritten rules that you know that are existing in dance music, we try to deny that, but they are there, right? I mean, you know, you're always sitting in the studio with the crowd in so like imagining the crowd. What will it do? No, 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 no. It needs to have a bit more this and this and this, and then the crowd will do this. You know, that's how most of us are in the studio. And so, and with Fair, I'm just really trying to switch off any rules. I just sit and I let the universe take me wherever, and you know, and that's the difference. Um, so that's yeah, like I said, that's really my sort of escape for myself.
That's nice. I mean, it must be a really tough balance. I ask this a lot on the podcast or in interviews, how to balance what you want to play, what project you're doing, what the crowd wants to hear, the event you're at, and then also at in the country that you're in as well. I mean, do your sets differ, would you say, when you're in the Netherlands than when you're in the US or when you're in Asia?
I try honestly, I try not to, and just for the simple reason that when I play, let's say someone from Asia was here, you know, and they hear me play the way I do here, and then in two months time, let's say I'm in Asia, and that same person's like, oh yeah, I wanna go there, and I'm playing completely different just because I'm in Asia. So it's the same thing as I don't know, get whatever big rock band you have over there out now, you know, touring, and you saw them in London, and next month you see them in Australia, and they play different songs that you never heard before. It made no sense, right? So I try to keep a certain identity that that is across the world, really.
Yeah, and I think especially for dance music, I mean, you have people who travel all over to see you, people who follow you, or people like me that are just everywhere in all different countries. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of traveling, you know, the meaning of the word Gouryella, I recently learned it means heaven, in an Australian Aboriginal language. I know that some of the names of your projects and songs come from Tagalong and other languages. Where did all of this come from? Did it come from your love of travel, your love of producing? Where did all these amazing names come from?
It basically comes from my goofiness in my goofy interest in all that stuff like languages. Uh, what else is out there between heaven and earth, really, you know, and you know, having that interest and digging. Sometimes, you know, you come across these words, and yeah, at the time when the first Gouryella was made, when I made that with Tiesto, we were looking for like how what are we gonna call this? And I think I was watching Discovery Channel, and it was about the Aborigines, you know, and then they explained how they believe in their their dream time and Gouryella, and that was their word for heaven. I was like, wow, that's cool, because Gouryella, just the sound of the word is already has a beautiful thing to it, right? And then the meaning as well. So that became sort of like the thing for Gouryella throughout. So that's why there's Ligaya, which is happiness in Tagalog,
Mhm.
Filipino, and Neba, Anahera. Those are all angel or heaven tenshi, right? There's another Gouryella, this angel in Japanese. I think they're all sort of like within the realm of heaven, spiritual stuff, angels. But I'm now curious. Now I'm actually really looking for words that represent that have a certain beautiful sound to it, even if you don't know what it means. Um, but yeah, that's how that came about, really. Yeah.
That's amazing. So what will your drum and bass alias name be?
Oh, I
Not to
don't know.
put you on the spot, but
Yeah, right. Let's give me. Give me some time to think about that.
Yeah, I'm curious what language that'll come from then.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
too funny. So I want to talk about your upcoming event that you announced in Rotterdam on May 3rd, What the F Repertoire. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Unfortunately, I'll be in the US then, so I won't be able to
Not too bad.
come. I know
Um,
I'll be in the US for EDC, but can you
yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, what the F is my open to close concept that I'm doing. I've been doing it now for 2 years, I'd say. So I have done a number of shows in the US, Australia, Asia, Europe. So for the first time in my own hometown, which is great.
Mhm.
What the F is, it started as how the whole What the F thing came about was actually really nice. It's you know, at some point I got all these questions from fans like, hey, because this was when I was really playing a lot with Marcus still,
Mhm.
and Marcus doing his open to close sets, and fans asking like, Ferry, when are you doing this? I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do the same thing as Marcus. That's really his thing. He's master of it, That's cool. And but then I was thinking, okay, also I've been doing quite a number of producer sets, and they always take off. And I was like, okay, well, what if I have so much music um, with my various aliases and all the music I produced over the years? I could easily fill like what 8, 10, 12 hours, if not more. So what if I do an open to close producer set? And that way by doing that I also have a chance to play my deeper stuff. I have a chance to play stuff that people don't even know it's me. um, and people may even hear certain tracks that they know but they never knew it was me, and they'll be on the floor like, what the that's a great name, what the f you know
Oh,
that's
that's so
how that
clever.
yeah, that's how that whole thing came about. And so yeah, again, it's an open to close producer set. So playing all my stuff, and it really is like a journey from from like the biggest hits that people know to like unreleased stuff, even back in the day, all the way to now. And yeah, it's just a real fun night.
A journey in time. So how do you prepare for a set like that? Do you go kind of in your head with what tracks you're going to play, or you have to go off the crowd, or how do you prepare for an open and close set when it's just your music, especially?
Yeah, that was a big question. I was trying to answer myself, right? Am I going to go on the fly? I I decided that that was not a good thing. So I have sort of like a running order of the set that I play, with a very easy way to just take a different direction. And if I just have that for the one reason that I just don't want to forget certain tracks.
Mm.
You know, if you just go if you just go random, you may be so in a moment and then there's nothing worse than being in your hotel room and you think like, oh shit, I didn't play this track or my latest single, or I had that over the years. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a set that works. If I play it like this, it'll probably be 12 hours long. But at least I have the running order. There's a nice flow. Even if I skip certain tracks or I just take a detour, I can always come back here and take up this part of the set again. So it's um it's more like that. So yeah, it took me quite a while to prepare that, because everything's so like you know uh, it's all keyed, but there's also flow and energy that works. There's tons of sort of like crazy mashups that I made, especially um, for the night, because there's simply too much music to just play track by track. So I also decided to make mashups that combine a bunch of tracks. So at least I can tick all those boxes. Play, you know. And but it ended up, being really cool sort of mashups that work really well. So yeah, a lot of preparation went into it, but yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So when you're on stage for 12 hours, and this is the same question I've asked Marcus Schulz, and if I ever get to interview Carl Cox, I want to ask him too. How do you stay energized for 12 hours on stage? What do you do if you need to take a break? What's your secret, if you could tell
So
us?
12 hours. I give Marcus that, man. It's just holy moly, 12 hours is long. The longest set I've ever played was 10 hours.
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
God.
yeah, that's long. That's enough. So my for me, perfect set would be sort of like between 6 and 8. Still long though, but
That's
uh,
really long.
yeah.
That's
But
really
you know
long.
what? It's really interesting how when you're so in you being absorbed into you know that whole set yourself really, and so time really flies. And obviously, what we talked about earlier, right? Tracks are getting shorter, and the
Mhm.
amount of tracks I have, which I wanted to cramp into like 8 hours, um, I made a lot of edits, so they're all short. So that's so cool, great, a lot of music. But next problem is, okay, where's my pee break, right? If I need one.
That's always what I what I'm
Yeah,
wondering with
so-
these sets. Yeah, I think Marcus said that he doesn't. He just like drinks a little water and then just goes. I don't know. I forget what the interviews I've seen with Carl Cox, but like because people are standing there watching you the whole time. How do you go to the? I mean, it's easier if you're a guy, I guess, than a girl, but still, like that's just why that's wild to me. I used to MC live events, mostly like hardstyle and stuff, but as an MC you can take a ton of breaks because
yeah,
you
yeah,
say what you need to say, put your hands up, then put the mic
yeah.
down, go take a break, come back.
Back, yeah.
DJ, it's different.
Yeah, so I guess so. I have these. I created these 2 moments or 3 moments in the whole set, where the track is a mashup as well. But since it's a mashup, it's like a mix of 2, 3 tracks. So the track itself is longer because there's a lot of stuff happening, which gives me should need be there, right?
Yeah.
So run off quickly, back in a minute. Nature calling. Yeah, sorry guys, but yeah. So having those in there, it's almost like I those are my sort of like my pillars in the set, right? Okay, I reached this track. Do you need a pee break? No, don't. So continue. But at least I know, okay, bang. That's like 1/3 of the set done, Next. On to the next. And okay, I'm there. Yeah. Do we need to pee break? No. Okay, I'll come. I can finish it, right? But funny enough, it's just that breaking up the set like that makes it feel less long. And it's over before you know it. Really, really, really funny. Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, that's smart to plan that out. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I bet time flies when you're up there. You just get in the zone, get in the moment, and you
Yeah.
really feed off the energy of the crowd. And I think especially in Rotterdam, where you're from, it's just such a home for electronic music. And speaking of Rotterdam too, you got to play on the State of Trance tram. I didn't make it to the tram, but what do you think it is about Rotterdam, the Netherlands, that just you don't see this in other places in the world? Is I every day that I live here in the Netherlands, I'm like, only in the Netherlands do you hear like EDM at the grocery store or like a DJ at Albert Heijn or at a bakery. It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
wild.
Yeah, you see when ADE is going on, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
crazy way of like the DJs at bakeries and stuff. It's insane. How did why? I don't know. I mean, we just have a really long history of electronic dance music, and we're a very small country with a lot of people. We have 18 million people in a small country, right? But we have over 1,500 festivals per year, right? It's insane. So I think electronic music is just we're just literally breeding it, and there's a lot of DJs that also get featured on radio, TV shows sometimes, and there's it's not the DJ world is not a very alien world over here, which it is sometimes in certain other countries. It's like, oh yeah, people just it's too far for people to really comprehend what's going on. Over here, it's just yeah, it's part of daily life almost.
Yeah, it's
And
it's so embedded in the culture here. It's amazing. You even see it with kids too. Like when you were saying it's like bred here, it's true. Like you see kids as young. I mean, Martin Garrix started, he was like 11, right? Or 8, I forget. Like just kids really get, or you said too, like just little kids getting turntables and
absolutely,
become
yeah,
DJs. It's so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so and why that is exactly how that came about, I don't know. I mean, like I said, when I was listening to uh, when I was a kid, we all yeah we had Italo disco, which was very big here, which was already in my if you honestly ask me, I think that was the precursor of modern day trance music. You know, I mean, Out of the Blue was modeled after that old Italo sound. So I mean, so even in the 80s, right, we already had that electronic thing here. So yeah, that's I think that's why we're just so we grew up with it on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just such a part of the culture. I mean, that's why I love living here. I mean, every day I'm like, oh, this is amazing. You hear it on the radio, you hear it at the grocery store, at the
Right.
mall. It's just it's an amazing part of daily life. And if you love electronic music, you should come here, you should move here, live here totally. So we're coming towards the end now. I just have a couple more questions for you. On my podcast and in general in my interviews, we talk a lot about mental health, and with all the different projects and things that you have going on, all the touring and traveling, how do you stay on top of your mental and physical health? I know you mentioned earlier you work out and snowboard, but is there anything else that you do to keep your mind and body healthy?
Um, well, for me, it's really easy to switch off, right? When I say, okay, I have enough of it, I'll switch off and I switch off the studio. I don't look at any socials. I don't care about social media. Um, and I think that already helps me a lot because I know a lot of people who are always switched on, you know, and at some point that catches up with you. And and also, yeah, it sounds funny. I'm not saying that I really don't care what my fans say about me or people say about me, but I also take it a little with a grain of salt sometimes, you know. It is what it is, and I do certain things, and people have a response to that, and whether they like it or not, okay, next time, you know, all good. But so luckily, I know that I'm pretty good with that, and therefore I can switch off, and I don't let things bother me. Um, it just doesn't really get to me, and I only became aware of that when the whole mental health thing started becoming a thing. And I'm like, wow, yeah, but the problems that I hear certain guys suffer from, I just don't have that. And I feel very uh, blessed, I guess, with that. You know that that I'm that's my attitude towards it. Um, and you know, I wish I could just give that as a good advice to certain people, but yeah, it's easier for certain people than for others, right? So, but so that's mentally, physically. You know, I try to live just really healthy and calm throughout the week. I mean, sometimes you know, the weekends can get crazy. You know, there's a drink here and there. Yeah, okay, but during the week, I'm staying away from all craziness and um, just live very focused in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard in electronic music because of not only the touring, so the traveling, but also that everything's late at night. Even well, last weekend I was at Don't Let Daddy Know. I got back to Leishadam at like 8:30 in the morning. I left my house at like 7 p.m. to go
Right.
towards the Ziggo. You know, it's that's not really healthy when you work normal 9 to 5 during the week or normal office hours during the week, and then doing that every single weekend,
Yeah.
plus the traveling, plus the time difference, plus of course you know there are things that go in the nightlife industry in the scene like you've mentioned drinks or perhaps substances things like that. So I think all that like we've seen with Avicii and other artists that we've lost can kind of lead to yeah the on top of all the pressure can really lead to serious problems and that just it's not always the healthiest environment nightlife as much as we love it it's not always the healthiest.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing a shift though. I just recently played a tour in Australia and also in the UK. I see it happening that there's a shift from like the real deep in the night events coming forward to like uh yeah, almost like day events, which is really cool. I really like it honestly because you know, there's always I always feel like at at events during the night, there's a certain moment in the night around 3, 4 p.m. of a.m. where the atmosphere just gets dark, you know, and
Things go downhill, start to go down.
yeah,
Yeah.
whether it doesn't matter where I am, it could be any club in Ibiza or anywhere else really, but it's just I feel like okay, around this time the vibe is getting different, and um, I don't know, cutting off before that, it's not a bad thing, honestly. Starting earlier, cutting off before that, everyone's still fresh the next day,
That's where
be
it gets
people.
me too. During Corona, we kind of saw the rise of the daytime parties, and it's
Yeah,
kind of stuck. I was at a daytime Raw style party around New Year's at the Ziggo Dome, and it ended at midnight. And yeah, we're seeing that a bit more now. For me, it's the 6 a.m. end times in the Netherlands are really rough because by the
yeah,
time you get home with the train, like I said, 8:30 in the morning, or from Arnhem from the Dome, I'm not getting home till like 10 in the morning. Then you
yeah,
need to go to sleep. You have to, like, that really messes you. I mean, I've been doing it for so long, kind of have it down now, but like it messes you up like for a
yeah.
couple days.
Yeah, it's hard those times, and as as I see like these events that are done at 11, at 11 p.m. Great, amazing. You know, that's the thing I do love in quite a number of cities in the US where cutoff is like what 1:45 a.m. Amazing, because
Go home.
you're still somewhat sort of fresh the next day. Yeah, yeah,
Go
not
get
so
something to eat, go home. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I'm up for that. So I think that I wonder if nightlife would shift to those times in general, if that would have an impact on mental and physical health of people as well.
Yeah, and I think it just depends on the country as well. I just know in the Netherlands and in Germany, things just end so late. In the US, you wouldn't really see something go till 6 in the morning. I mean, you do have EDC Vegas, which is a nighttime festival, but you wouldn't see a club go till 6 in the morning. Where here, it's just random clubs in The Hague or Rotterdam. It's like
Yeah,
6, 7 in the morning. It's still
yeah.
open.
Or Latin America, where it's Argentina or so, where the guest DJ, the headliner, starts at 4 a.m. It's like, okay.
It's wild. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I think Club Space is like that in Miami too, where like I think it was people were saying like Amelie Lenz like headlined at like 4 or 5 in the morning. Like that's crazy.
that's insane. Yeah, but hey, it is what it is, and certain clubs, when you know it's like that, you just kind of prepare for it as well, I guess. But yeah.
Definitely, that's all you can do. So, this is the question that I ask all my guests on the podcast. How do you rave for a cause or party for a purpose in your life?
Uh, I don't know. I follow my heart. That sounds cliche you know, as can be, but I I've always done what I love, and making music and doing the traveling and the touring, it's the thing I really love most. I live for it, and yeah, that's it. As easy as that.
That's amazing. That comes across in your music too. You can tell that you love it. You can tell when you're on stage. Like it's really obvious when someone's not loving what they're doing, and it's obvious that you love it and you have a passion for it. And yeah, it really shines through. So thank you so much for today. Can you let everyone know where people can connect with you online? Where can they find you? Shout out all the links and information.
It's every social media you can think of, Ferry Corsten. So easy.
Super easy.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining today from EDM House Network and from Drop Bass Not Bombs. Thank you, Ferry, and I hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was my episode with Ferry Corsten. It was so cool having him on the podcast. I've been a fan of his music since I started raving in the 2010s in college. And I remember seeing him many times in Washington, D.C., where I went for school. And then eventually at festivals all over between the Netherlands and the US, of course. And yeah, it was just really one of those full circle moments of like, wow, little like 18-year-old like club rat, like rave baby Amy would have freaked out if it was like, oh yeah, in just 15 years, 16 years, you're gonna have Ferry Corsten on your podcast. Like that was so cool. What an opportunity. Really, truly an honor to have him on the Drop Bass Not Bombs podcast. And of course, this interview will go up on edmhousenetwork.com as well. Ferry Corsten's an absolute legend in the trance scene, and I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. So for those of you watching on YouTube, I want to show some videos. So during the interview, we were talking a lot about A State of Trance and his set. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can take a look here at some of the videos from his set and also from A State of Trance, how cool it was. If you're listening on Spotify, I'll provide an audio description. So basically, what I said in the interview was true. I was behind Ferry Corsten. It sounds weird when you say it. Like, I feel like whenever I say stuff, it always sounds like I'm like in the bushes, like I was behind you. Like, no, I was not standing directly behind him, just like in the shadows. Though there were times where I know a lot of times with Rob G, I was like behind him, like under the DJ booth holding things, like, so it wouldn't be weird if I was like actually literally legitimately standing behind Ferry Corsten. So I've done plenty of things like that, but do what it takes for your job. But no, I was significantly behind him, filming and working and covering the set. You can see that in the videos here that it was crowded, it was packed, it was crazy. The energy was amazing. It was really so much fun. I really also enjoyed the new venue. So as we talked about in the interview, A State of Trance used to take place in Utrecht here in the Netherlands, and now it's in Rotterdam at Rotterdam Ahoy, which I of course prefer because I live close. It's where I live closer, and yeah, it was a great venue. The way it was set up, it was really well organized. If you guys want to know more about A State of Trance, if you want to know more about my experience there, head on over to edmhousenetwork.com. You can find my full review, full recap, all the information. So speaking of reviews, I have another event review. I have so many things, but I have another event review up on EDM House Network, and that's from Don't Let Daddy Know at the Ziggo Dome. So last month I attended Don't Let Daddy Know, it's a mouthful, for the second time, where I saw Hardwell, Blasterjaxx, Nicky Romero, many more. Absolutely love their events. So it was my second time at State of Trance, the second time at Don't Let Daddy Know. Yeah, it's always interesting going for the second time. The first time you're kind of taking everything in, and then when you go for the second time, you can really dive in deep because you already know the basics, you kind of know your footing, you have kind of an idea of what to expect. So it was really cool to go again. The production's insane. Yeah, take a look at my Instagram, take a look at their Instagram, or on YouTube as well. Like, or here, if you're here right now, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put some videos here. You can take a look. It was just every time Don't Let Daddy Know, it's next level production. It's out of this world lasers, especially at the Ziggo Dome. So you can see in the videos if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, I'll give my audio description. So in the video here, this is Hardwell playing. So he's playing for a full stadium. So the Ziggo Dome's totally packed. And I'm filming from the upper deck. So it's a traditional like concert venue. So I'm all the way up at the top and I'm filming. So I have like a bird's eye view of the lasers and the pyrotechnics and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really amazing. Don't Let Daddy Know has events all over the world. So hopefully I'll be able to check out some of those in the future. This all sounds awesome, right? Doesn't it? But you know what these events are also? Loud. Very loud. That's why I never leave for a rave or festival without my Eargasm earplugs. Eargasm makes high fidelity earplugs that keep your ears safe at your next rave, festival, or concert. The earplugs are comfortable, affordable, and unique to fit your every need. Use code MCUnicorn10 at checkout to save some money and save your ears today. I'll be bringing them with me to Las Vegas in just a few weeks. I can't wait. Speaking of Vegas, speaking of raves, speaking of outfits, you guys know by now that this episode is brought to you by Shroom Beach. Shroom Beach is a rave and festival psychedelic beachwear brand with reflective, trippy, and fun fits. So I wore one of their outfits last year at Ultra, also at World Club Dome, probably in Vegas. I keep changing my mind about what I'm going to wear, but so sometimes it's a game time decision. But you'll definitely see me wearing some of their outfits this summer. It's also great for the beach. Also in the winter too, they have like a Snuggie Odie thing. So if you're in a cold climate or you're just someone like me that's always cold, or maybe at the campsite, check those out as well. Use my code MCUnicorn20 and shop from amazing psychedelic swimwear and festival outfits at shroombeach.com. Best of all, a portion of the proceeds goes from every purchase to support psychedelic research. So head on over to shroombeach.com or click the link down in the description, down in the show notes to learn more. So in addition to all these amazing offers, all these discounts, all these things, Drop Bass Not Bombs also has our own merchandise. So I'm not just wearing merchandise from brands that I love, but also from my own brand. We've launched a new line of merch, including bomber jackets, caps, bucket hats, flags, fans, hoodies, t-shirts, and more. A portion of the proceeds from the merchandise will go to a local animal shelter here in The Hague in the Netherlands. So head on over to rave-wear.nl and check out the newest collection. Post a photo of you in the new merch. The bomber jackets are really cool, guys. Definitely go and get one. Use hashtag DropBassNotBombs. Show your support today. And of course, I'll link to everything in the show notes in the description. Lastly, guys, if that wasn't enough, please check out my second podcast, Ravers Revelations, with my friend Elena Van Wyk. This is the podcast. It's very different from this podcast. So it's more casual. It's more inappropriate. It's festival stories. So we read and react to your crazy festival stories. You guys are wild. You're disgusting. You have some weird stories. Send us anything. We'll read and react to it on the podcast anonymously, of course. That is available on Spotify. And if you're looking for extra content, for that bonus behind the scenes crazy stuff, head on over to patreon.com/raversrevelations. If you'd like to support me in the podcast, please give me a follow on Instagram at MCUnicornOfficial. Also drop Bass Not Bombs NL. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. We have so many things going on all the time. Next up, EDC Vegas. Taking a little rave break for now. And yeah, next episode, I'll see you guys May 17th. So I've been dropping surprises now at the end of the episode. So if you guys listen this far, you'll know who the next guest is. It's another huge DJ. I'm so excited. It's Tony Jr. It's a really amazing episode. So yeah, I'll see you guys on May 17th. Have a great weekend. Bye.